Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is Monday, September 15, 2025. We broadcast live every Monday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're listening over Rumble or YouTube and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us live by phone, app, or browser. Well, if anyone would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, that's plural, questions at nationallibertyalliance.org. Please support our business partners. You can find their banners on the right side of our website, of which the proceeds go to support NLA's effort to save our republic. Also, please support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on our donation tab, top right side of our website. Okay, we're going to pick up on our scripture reading where we left off last week. We're in the Gospel of Luke, coming up in chapter 21, read by Alexander Scorby.
And he said, Of a truth I say unto you that this poor widow hath cast in more than they all. For all these have of their abundance cast in unto the offerings of God. But she of her penury hath cast in all the living that she had. And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, As for these things which ye behold, the days will come in the which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be, and what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye be not deceived. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. And the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified. For these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But there shall not an hair of your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars. And upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And he spake to them a parable. Behold the fig tree, and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. So likewise ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to him in the temple for to hear him.
Okay, anybody wants to, the queue is now open. If anybody wants to ask a question or make a comment, star 6 and a 1 to get into the queue if you're on a phone, and there should be a button there if you're on an Apple browser to enter the queue. Jen, we got questions tonight?
Yes, we do, John. We have two. The first one is, do biblical parables explain cause and effect? And it references Joshua's parable of the sower. Have you had a chance to look at that?
Well, I'm familiar with the parable of the sower, but I'm not sure, I didn't read anything what their thoughts were or what exactly they were looking for in that.
Well, there's about four pages of text that goes with that and a lot of references.
Well, is it focused in on the things of the world, or is it focusing on biblical things? Well, you don't know.
Well, the first part is just a parable, and then it goes into definitions of rocks and thorns. And
well, give me some ideas, maybe of just the rocks or the thorns. What's the claim on the meaning?
Please say again, John. You're kind of mushy on my end.
Yeah, just give me a little bit of information on what they're saying about rocks and thorns.
Okay, well, for example, rocks, it goes to a link to King John, concession of England and Ireland to the Pope. Thorns, it goes to Magna Carta and a magazine clone Republic blob core window, and I can't tell from that, it's an image that talks underneath that about the Bar Treaty. And then political reconstruction is another link. The Ultimate Weapons blogspot. Reconstruction is something about the 13th Amendment.
All right, well, that sounds like a worldly interpretation of what God is saying there. I don't know that we want to get into any biblical studies here tonight. We do have a Wednesday night meeting if people are interested in asking questions on the Bible, or if they want to enter into our Bible studies. We have it right here in this room every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Time. But just a real quick response is a little bit, that particular parable of the sower, Jesus actually explains the meaning of that power in Matthew chapter 13, verse 18, where he says, "Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower." And then he goes on to explain it. And again, I'm not going to get into a Bible study here, but if people are interested in that, you can come to a Bible study and we can get into the detail of that particular parable. I did do a study on Matthew. It is up on Rumble. So if you go back a little bit, we did Revelations, we did Matthew. We're doing John. And after that, I think we're going to do topical studies. And so we'll see where we go. But, if people have questions, I can answer those questions there. The Bible just tells us to be careful of the doctrines of men ultimately. Bible is not open for a private interpretation. We have to read the Bible within itself, line upon line, precept upon precept. The Bible is its own interpreter. It's its own dictionary. And so For instance, when you read these things, like we read tonight in the book of Luke, and it was talking about end times, all that language there is really parable. It's parabolic. Especially when it gets into describing prophecy, it's always parabolic, leading us to spiritual meanings. And again, we discuss these things or teach these things in our Bible studies if people are interested. So we'll kind of leave it there. I know whatever they had said, it was quite a few pages, and you mentioned it to me a couple of minutes ago before we came on, and I just briefly looked at that, and it's quite long, and it did look quite worldly. So again, it's a violation of Scripture to interpret the Bible with outside information. All right, next question.
Okay, the next question is the same sort of setup.
Mm-hmm.
Refers to Pennsylvania and a Dragonet Act, and it relates to subchapter E, and it's titled Wrongful Use of Civil Proceedings, and it proceeds to go through 5 sections. The first one's 8351, Wrongful Use of Civil Proceedings. The second, 8352, the existence of probable cause. The next section is 8353, damages. The fourth one is 8354, burden of proof. And 8355 is certification of pleadings, motions, and other papers. And then it starts into 6 pages of definitions of each one of those sections.
Does it come to a question at some point, particularly, maybe towards the end, or even in the beginning, maybe that I missed? Is there a question in there?
I can't tell whether the comments under it are in the Act or comments on, for example, wrongful use of civil proceedings.
Right. Well, look, when it comes to civil law, civil proceedings, it's all unlawful. Civil law has nothing to do with we the people. Civil law really has nothing to do with America. There are 2 forms of law and equity. Equity, what's called positive law, and law is what's called natural law. So we have natural law versus positive law. Positive law is applied, which is statutory. In other words, it's statutes, regulations. That we'd find someone trying to say something here. Anyway, statutes are applied for people who are working for the government agencies, so it applies to government agencies, anybody who is an elected or appointed individual, and even people employed. Whereas law identifies and deals with the people. That's the law of God's natural law. We read about the foundation of natural law in the Declaration of Independence, where we desire to be under the laws of nature and of nature's God. Blackstone goes into great depth concerning this particular subject matter. His whole focus is really on natural law, and he's got quite a few volumes. I forget how many volumes. I think he's actually got 4 volumes, if I remember, but he's got at least a few volumes, and they're pretty thick, meaty books. And he gets into natural law specifically. Bar attorneys are taught, they're taught civil law, Babylonian law, and again, has nothing to do with us. If you can get a court of record open, and we are working on trying to get the courts to open up the courts of justice again, and if we can accomplish that, it's up to the people to do that. It's up to the people to support what we're doing here. And, there's some paperwork we'd like to file, some new presentments with things concerning an indictment we had done concerning Lavoie Finnegan. We've been unable to really collect. Someone sent $50. That's about all we collected on that. But it's going to cost a lot more than that to go through the process of putting the presentment together. It'd be over 600, 700 pages, and to get it to the proper people. But that would give us the opportunity to do a presentment over top of that particular indictment, and then lead into some other things that we've been communicating to the administration through presentments, which included, of course, Bondi, Attorney General Bondi. We're trying to really which is very difficult for these people to come to appreciate because they've been living under the lie for so long. It's hard for them to come to the realization that they've been living under the lie and that they've been applying the lie. And the lie actually really has been destroying America. And the fact of the matter is, whether they know it or not, that the bar attorneys are the minions of the New World Order, without which they could never have their New World Order, nor could they ever have destroyed America, which they've almost done. Thank God, by the mercy of God, they didn't accomplish that, and things have turned around. But in any event, they believe, when you talk to a lawyer about common law, they think common law has to do with trial court decisions, which is what's called comity, C-O-M-I-T-Y. And that applies to really just upholding all this craziness that goes on in the trial courts. Anybody that's been in a trial court, it's a circus. It's an abomination. It's destructive. It lacks any form of justice whatsoever. We don't belong in those courts. We belong in courts of justice, which, again, is natural law. But anyway, when you speak about common law, they think that that's what common law is. And I had a conversation recently with a lawyer, and I was just shut down. They didn't want to hear this. It was another group of people, a whole group of people in this. So, they're not willing or up to hearing about what our founding fathers had set up, what the Declaration of Independence says, and what Blackstone says, and what Jefferson and the founding fathers who studied Blackstone and others in order to come to the understanding of common law. But common law is natural law, and that is the key. Now, we've lost all that. 1934 Enabling Act destroyed that, and 1938 rules enabling that the United States Supreme Court brought forth, which was not necessarily true. The Supreme Court didn't write that. The Bar Association wrote that. Just as the Bar Association has written all of the destructive statutes that try to incarcerate we, the people who are in a statutory prison. And it all really begins, it goes back further than 1871, but it really begins with the foundation in 1871, the Organic Act of 1871, which incorporated the United States and brought the United States into subjection of these crazy individuals, at least on our government level. And they've been working, and again, that was not written. That was written by the Bar Association. Again, remember, the Bar Association, its whole purpose always has and always will be destruction of common law, to bring in the law of the city, to bring people under the rule, under the thumb of these tyrants. And that's what we're seeing in the movement in the Democratic Party. They're the ones that maintain slavery, and you could trace the Democratic Party all the way back into what it was before, which was called the Federalist. And in the Federalist, that's where the enemy was. A lot of great stuff came out of that, of course, but the enemy was in the gate, and that was the key. And they created the Democrat Party in contrast to the Republican Party. The Republican Party is, of course, we're ruled by law, and the law that we're ruled by are the people's law and God's law. We, the people, ordained and established the law when we ordained and established the Constitution for the United States of America. And we laid out 6 directives in that preamble to the Constitution and gave the powers and the authorities. We, the people, are the sovereign. We wrote the law. We are the lawmakers. Therefore, we are above the law. Nothing Congress can write, no legislation can Congress write that controls we, the people, at all whatsoever. Now, of course, they've turned everything around. They've seized control of our courts. They they closed the doors of justice, therefore you can't get into a court of justice. They call common law, trial court decisions. They placed us under civil law, and the whole system is destroyed. Now, it's really tough to try to explain this to people who think they know things. It's not what you think, it's not what you know that's really going to destroy you. It's what you think you know and ain't so. That's what's going to get you. That's what's going to destroy you. And it's exactly what is going on, in my opinion, in the administration. Now, I may be wrong there. We've been trying to educate the administration Trump's administration for quite some time now. And, and hopefully something's going to eventually wake someone up there to understand what a republic is and who we are as a people, that we're a Christian nation under biblical law, which is the law of the land, which brings us to natural law. Our government was created under the Bible. Deuteronomy is a layout of government that Israel had formed within itself through God's word. And then we took that also, Jefferson, Madison, and others, but particularly Jefferson and Madison, Jefferson particularly, who discovered these things and put it together, and him and Madison worked together to form and what we do have. But again, the enemy was in the gate, working to destroy our court system, even while we were yet, colonies. It started in 1750, and it hasn't ended. It's up to the people to make it end. And the only way that's going to happen, ultimately, in my opinion, strong opinion, is if we can change the minds and the hearts of the people that are empowered right now. I think the possibility is there. I think we can turn these people around. Turning a lawyer around is very difficult, extremely difficult. But, by God's mercy, maybe we'll do it. But the key thing is this: those people who are not lawyers, if we can turn them around, okay? If we can get them to understand what government by consent is really all about, who we are as a people, what is our roots, and what our law really is. If we can get their attention, and unfortunately this is true not only with the administration, but with most people. You got a legal problem, you're going to find yourself a lawyer. Well, that's the enemy. He's your worst enemy. So you go find yourself a lawyer, does all the interpretation, explains everything to you, and we're kept as dumb as a box of rocks. That has to change, and if people don't want to change that, then you can't have government by consent. You can't have a true republic. You can't have a court of justice. You can't have liberty, because our heritage is in the law. If you don't know the law, you can't know your heritage, and our inheritance is liberty. And so you can't have that. If you don't know when they're breaking the law, they don't even know when they're breaking the law, because they don't care about the law. They don't read the Constitution. A lot of these judges that are going up on the federal bench, they have no clue in the Constitution whatsoever. And yet these are the people that have seized control and judge over us. I mean, when is the servant? Where do you find in anywhere where the servant, is holds over and tries the master? We're the masters. We are governed by God's law, and any court system that runs, it's the people's courts, and it's the people that decides, and that's what we come up with, the jury of 12. And indictment requirements for anything that could require any kind of anything that might be a crime. It must go into common law court and must be decided by the people. But all that is no longer, but it's up to us to fix that problem and repair it. And again, that can only be done by communicating and trying to turn the understanding of those people who are in power right now, which have good intentions, and they're doing a lot of great things. They're going to fix a lot of problems, but I'm not too sure whether they're going to fix our courts or not. We got to make sure that they do. All right, that's. I know I went long on that one and went all over the place, but that was the only two questions you had, right, Jim?
Yeah. Okay, that was the end. Yeah, that's the last question.
Okay. All right, nobody in the queue, so I don't know what we're going to discuss tonight. I didn't make a plan on anything particularly, but maybe we'll read some stuff until someone gets into the queue. *6 and a 1 if you're on a phone, and if you're on an app or a browser, there should be a button to enter into the queue. Okay, people are coming in the queue, so let's see what we got. Okay, first person is Big Guy. How you doing? What's first
evening.
name? Yep,
Me again.
First name and state again. Go right ahead.
From North Dakota. The saga and this thing continues. There on the that I was arrested. What's kind of the rule? Aren't they required? It was not a state arrest to jail me. I was not given a copy of the warrant. I was not given, though, way back in November, the police officer, or not the police, but the sheriff deputy, he had called and left a message, and I called him at the end of the day, and he read to me what it was, and it was like a couple of sentences. And then he said, I can't see any reason why I should be arrested. You're no danger to anybody. You're 71 years old. You're married. You got kids. You got a homeowner. And he didn't understand why the warrant ordered my arrest. He said, I don't need to arrest you and put you in jail for a week to get. It was on like a Thursday, and the next available date to appear before the judge would have been on a Thursday the following week. And he saw no point in putting me in jail. He said, you could just do this yourself. I don't have to arrest you to do that. He said, just call the courthouse, call the sheriff's department, and just tell them you talked to me, and then call the, and they'll give you the number to call the prosecutor's office or whatever it was, and you can set up a court date. He says there's no time limit when you have to do this, so that's why he was kind of confused what he was told to do. So I thanked him for, kind of standing up for me, and so then I called those both offices, and 3 times I asked them, is there a time limit on when I have to call to set up this court date? Now, I never got a summons to appear in court. Now, my understanding, if I get a summons and I don't appear in court, I'm automatically guilty, whatever it is, and they could have me arrested for not appearing in court and force me to come there and hold me in jail. There were a lot of people in jail when I was there. That's what happened to them. They didn't appear up, and so they locked them up, and they've been in there for 3-4 weeks waiting to get their court appearance that they skipped out on. And he saw no point in doing this. I had no record, no danger to anybody. And then looking in the common law handbook that I got from you, common law court handbook, it talks about that. Like you had said, the burden of proof is on them, not on me. And then also you had told me, and the judge also said too, that I am innocent until proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. So my question was, why was I arrested and assumed? And I looked in the reports that I got when I was finally extradited back to Cass County, North Dakota, from Hennepin County, Minneapolis, Minnesota, which I questioned as well. I'll go back on my own. Nope, I'm not going to do that. So am I deprived of my freedom?
Were you literally arrested and put in jail?
I was literally put in jail. I was treated, I looked in their little handbook and said I was treated as a Class C felon.
How long were you in jail for?
I was in jail from Saturday night until the following Wednesday.
Well, to me, I
did not get my opportunity to call my lawyer. I was going to call you guys, but it was in my phone book, and they confiscated my phone. And so I need to get the numbers. So, come on, you're taking too long here. And I said, well, I need the phone number to be able to call my lawyer. And they denied it of me. I wasn't able to make the phone call until like a Monday or Tuesday of that next week. And then
so you went before the judge. What happened then?
And I actually appeared before the judge on Wednesday of that next week. And he said that they said, okay, we'll give you permission to be extradited back to North Dakota. I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. It was all done. So
at that point, they still didn't tell you what you were arrested for?
Nope.
And when's your next court date?
Well, I already had one to set the date for, what do you call that? What's the initial one? Arraignment or no?
Arraignment, yeah.
And what the first one was about.
Did you make a plea? Did you make a plea? Did you make a plea?
You didn't ask for one.
You were arraigned. When you were arraigned, the purpose of the arraignment is to get you to make a plea to participate in the system, okay, which is guilty or not guilty, or no contest.
We didn't do that. It was just set up the next court date. That's all it was. It took about 5 minutes to do that.
And you have no lawyer, or you're not getting a lawyer? I
had a public defender.
Yeah, what did the public offender? Yeah, what did he say about? He or she say about this? What's the charges? Didn't you ask them?
I asked him. He said, "What are the charges?" And he said, "There's nothing in here." Because I had mentioned to you. I said, "Well, that's a defective warrant." And he said, "Well, he read the statute and everything. He put it up there, and he showed pictures and stuff, which I'll get into in a moment. But the statute read. He said, "Well, what was my crime?" I asked him, "What was my crime?" Well, I said, what was my intent? My intent was to return a garage door opener and to do discovery of some things that she was saying that I had destroyed her
Okay,
carpet
yeah,
in her lawn.
I remember the story from there.
That stuff, okay? And I said, what's my crime? He said, well, it was just a crime you being there.
Okay, this is what's called, and this is the prosecutor that's pushing this whole process?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's vindictive prosecution is exactly what it is.
Prosecutor.
Yeah, well, it's vindictive prosecution. That's exactly what it is. Look at, I don't know how many people...
What did you use, vindictive?
Vindictive prosecution, yes.
I saw another word in your book, Common Law. It's called malicious.
Malicious, too, yeah. But vindictive is the big focus because I'm familiar with the story, with the clicker for the garage door and everything. But here's the things, and here's some of the problems. I don't know how many people are familiar with Judge Bork. Judge Bork was a highly respected judge, a real good constitutionalist, I understand, and he was put in there by Reagan, and Congress shut him. Not Congress, the Senate shut him down. He didn't pass through the process, so he never became a Supreme. He was up for the U.S. Supreme Court. And one of the things Judge Bork had said was that 80% of the people that are in prison are there because they opened their mouths. And you have to understand what he's talking about. He's talking about taking the plea. You go into a court. That's what the arraignment is for, guilty or not guilty. Okay, or no contest. You're not to plea. You can't plea. And there's sort of a process that I put together when I go into civil. Let's say traffic court. Okay, which they do all kinds of things in traffic, but they can try to put you in jail for a year, and not necessarily just for traffic court. There's all kinds of other civil law that's applied within that particular court system that also has the jurisdiction for traffic court. The traffic court, of course, has nothing to do with we the people. It's for anybody operating under commercial activities. Now, they're never going to agree to that, and they don't want to give that up. There's too much money to be made. And if they can't come out after we the people and just fleece us for as much money as they potentially can get, then what they're going to then they're going to fall apart. The court system will not be able to continue on. It needs the money to operate. It has to pay salaries, overhead, all kinds of things, just to keep things. And a police department. You have to have a police department too. It's all a money-making machine. It's just a cash register. And it's and you know why we're here? Because we the people are that ignorant and to the law, to what's going on. If we had at least 50% of the people that understood the law, and I don't even think we need that many, but the people that really are the movers and the shakers. If we get enough movers and shakers in the system, and I've calculated that to be about let's see, let me run some numbers real quick because I think it's 300,000. Let's see, 3,000. $150,000 to 300,000 people across America. We could take the court system back, and we could take the whole political process back through what's called the committees of safety. But people are too busy on their their smartphones, which make you stupid.
I'll use a word. They're afraid. A lot of people I talk to.
Well, you can say they're afraid. Yeah, that may be true too, to some degree. Some people,
well,
but not.
I've been speaking up, and look what happened to me. And
but there's someone else pushing things. Look, in order for there to be a crime, there has to be an injured party. Okay, you have to injure somebody. So who did you injure?
Can a corporation be an injured party?
No, a corporation cannot be an injured party. But there are certain crimes. For instance, if you were stealing from a corporation, the owners of that corporation or the stock owners, whoever's holding stock or whatever, they're the injured party. So yes, that could be the case. But a corporation in itself cannot be the injured party in a crime.
That's what the plaintiff is.
Behind the corporation.
The plaintiff is a corporation. AB Property Management, LLC.
Okay. All right. Well, again, it sounds like
the manager is the one that's.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. If you've went to jail and you've been held and they're not telling you anything about what anything is, and they're pursuing you for potential for jail sentence, then an indictment is in order. And without an indictment, there is no crime. Only the people can decide. The unfortunate thing is that they pull this stuff off all day long. The lawyers go along with it. because they're told to shut their mouths or you're going to lose your license. They all know the game. They don't even have to talk about it. They all know they have to comply. The game plan is planned on big cases and stuff. All this stuff is planned between the lawyers and the judge, all before the court system really gets heavily going. Right before the system gets going, the judge is going to lay out the rules. They're going to talk about evidence they're not going to allow. You see, in common law, if you have evidence, it doesn't matter whether someone thinks it's dumb or someone thinks it's irrelevant, or it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. You have every right to bring that evidence up, because whatever they think is their opinion. You have your opinion. Well, the people will decide, okay? And that's called the jury, but they have to be free and independent. And they're not. You don't have free and independent juries no more because they're all stacked. So this was
Right.
this is vindictive prosecution. It's a denial of due process. If it was me, I'd require $1,000 in Morgan face value Morgan silver dollars. That's about $30,000-$40,000 right now. That's what I'd require a day for every day I'd spend in prison. Okay, and I'd be suing for that. Now, whether you're going to win is another question. It's going to be difficult to win a case like that. It's not that I've got cases going that I don't think I'm going to win, but I'm pursuing them anyway because who knows what could happen. Things can change.
Yeah.
Could get a good judge that will obey the law and push it into a jury, and the jury will decide, and maybe I could free the jury from being stacked. And
I'm feeling that this judge is a good judge. I mean, we had to listen to a video about your rights and all this kind of stuff, but he also said
your lawyer's brain dead. He should have done a paper already to have you summary judgment for release. Period.
Well, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and then we talked about I want to do a summary judgment, and I didn't get proper notice for one thing. The lease called for a 60-day advance notice, whether it be the landlord or the tenant. And I decided to go month to month, and it says you go month to month. You still have to give a 60-day notice, both parties. When we told her we're going month to month, she immediately sent out a 30-day notice of non-renewal. Baloney, she was already offering a renewal. I don't want to go on a one-year lease. I just want to go month to month until we get out of the house, get out and get into the house. And then when we got to that point of that 30th day, I had told her, I said, I'm not going to be able to finish everything that's in here. I'll tell you
how you can deal with this. Unfortunately, the lawyer's probably not going to do this or not going to want to do it, but it's a very simple.
Let me finish it. But on that warrant, I looked at that, and I did get a copy of the warrant when I was in jail. So I did some research, went on the law, looked up the law and stuff. But I looked at the police officer's report. He was not there, and the offense was allegedly on the 31st.
What's the charge?
Which I agree to.
What's the charge? Burglary. Okay. Well, where's the indictment?
And, yeah, well, that's the point. And I was never
indicted.
The
habeas corpus is the solution to this. Now, there's two problems here. Problem number one, your lawyer probably won't do it because they're probably too frightened to do it, number one. So you may have to do it yourself, and that becomes a problem in a lot of different things, if I had to go to court on a criminal thing, I'd probably hire a lawyer in the background just for get some ideas and influence, get some ideas and understanding of what they may be doing, what's going on in their mindset that the lawyer would know that I necessarily wouldn't know. So I would hire that one for that, but I wouldn't have them up in front running my case. I'd run my own case. But the problem is I don't know that you're capable of doing that or not. But besides that, if you run it with a lawyer, boy, they're going to ream that lawyer if you come in with a habeas corpus. Okay, and that's the problem. Okay, the other thing is the judge may just outright deny it, but she doesn't have a right to do that. There is no authority for him to. There's no such thing as a denial of a habeas corpus, even if the habeas corpus is dumb, even if it doesn't make facts anything that can control it, or there are facts on the other side that that they can lay out. This is what's going on.
Right.
It should be heard anyway, no matter what. The Supreme Court has ruled that.
What I want to discuss now is that warrant. And when the police officer, who was a young guy, found out he was a young guy, and he said he had his shoulder video camera on, and he was interviewing the so-called one who called in, not the landlord property manager, but a neighbor across the driveway from us. And he gave a report, and he said he had in his written part of it, he had no evidence of a forced entry. Well, it wasn't a forced entry because I would bring it back a garage door, and she didn't change the code, and it should open the door. So I thought, oh, this is good. I'm going to go in there and find out. She's charging me for carpet and everything. And my son and I,
But
we
that's
went in
not
there
a
and we
crime.
verified.
That's not a crime.
I
That's
know.
a civil thing.
Yeah, and so I was just telling the lawyer this. I said, I want a summary judgment on this. And he said, well, what he wanted to focus on was that we didn't get proper notice. I said, all this other stuff, he ignored it. But when I looked at the police report, he said that I had mentioned to you before, that he left messages. He called several times, and you just kind of went crazy when he said several times. How many is several? And that he left a voicemail. So then, based on what you told me, I went and looked at my phone. There is no evidence
Yeah, I remember you told me
before or
that.
after those dates of any phone calls from that police officer, that I got his phone number as well, that he would have had. Now, the Fargo police, if they call you, it'll show number unknown. But the deputy, Cass County Sheriff, his number showed up. And I saved it. I saved the voicemail. I didn't know it was him until after I got out of jail. And then, oh, that's him. I was trying to get a hold of him while I was in jail. And to have him explain, because the dispatcher wouldn't give me that person recognizance thing. So I can prove that thing was a what do you call it? Not a legitimate. He violated his oath. I took it. I got a copy of the police officer's oath, and it's not to misrepresent or to tell the truth, and probable cause. That's what I was looking for. And
Well, look,
he really didn't have anything to go on.
Your
But
remedy.
in his report, he said he recommended
Your remedy is twofold here. Okay, this is your remedy: habeas corpus, number one, and number two, suing them in a court of law. Now, they're not going to acknowledge the court of law. Maybe they will and don't even realize they're acknowledging it, and that's okay. The key thing is getting the jury to make a decision on this, because you went to jail. That's a crime, and you were it was a vindictive prosecution, and you really misuse of power. I mean, there's quite a few things. You got the common law handbook. I don't know if you have the common law court handbook.
That's what I have. I have the common law court handbook, not the court.
Okay, yeah, the common law court handbook, and the common law handbook probably addresses some of this too. But the common law court handbook will address a lot of these things that you can charge these. There's all kinds of charges you can go after these people. I'd go after the prosecutor, and I don't know what the judge.
I don't want to go to trial. I want to get this thing
I already told you your solution is habeas corpus. That's to get with the civil. That's to deal with the criminal side of things. The civil side of things.
Let me finish.
Is a lawsuit.
The attorney said that what he could do. He's done this before. So I asked him was surreptitiously. What does that mean? He said, well, it means you go in the day open. Well, the business was open or whatever. He said he had an actual case on this. He said a lot of things about lawyers. This lawyer told me. He said a lot of these property managers and these companies that have property, they don't want to hire a lawyer to do this stuff, and then they screw it all up. And he said he had some more than he proper notice. He thought maybe he could go back and have this thing, summary judgment based on that alone. But I don't want to stop just at that in case the judge doesn't go along with that or the prosecuting attorney doesn't go along with it. I want to go and say that police officer report was bogus too. He did not.
You could demand.
Did not leave me messages.
Look it. Better than a summary judgment is the habeas corpus, if you can get your lawyer to do it. Okay, that's the best thing to do. Yeah, that is another thing you could do for a summary judgment. Summary judgment is not valid in a court of law, with the exception, of course, if there's nothing there, then the judge can do the summary judgment to throw it out because there's nothing there. Okay? And but if the judge starts to play with this as far as, become part of the players on the other side, then he's someone to sue also. At this point, it doesn't sound like the judge is suable, but definitely that prosecutor is definitely suable, and the individual making the false claims and pushing these things, trying to push it to a criminal thing, which brings you to the corporation and the people behind the corporation, which I believe is a woman. Then you can go after her too, and I wouldn't go after the corporation. I'd go after the person behind the corporation.
Right.
So that's your solutions, and there's nothing else that I can give you on that, but that's pretty much it.
Well, what he was saying that he did get people off. He explained that surreptitious thing. You go in there and at night, then you come back out, and he had an actual case where they stole $25,000. Now, for something to be a felony, which I was never told either, and I was never told this is a live warrant. It's just a matter of me just calling into the court, and I called him and they said, yeah, I said, I'm going through some stuff, and I don't know, it's for time limit when I have to set up this court date. to appear for arraignment or whatever it is.
When you went to
And
jail,
no,
how did you go to jail? Did the sheriff come out and arrest you? Did cops come out and arrest you? Did you go
the
and turn
cops at the
yourself in?
airport in Minneapolis, Minnesota, arrested me.
Okay,
And I
but
had,
you
let me finish this
but you
part of it.
talked with the
When I
sheriff, and the sheriff was on your
John, let me
side.
finish this part. This is important. Okay, when I talked to the sheriff's department that day after that police officer or the sheriff deputy told me to call him in there, I asked, is there a time limit on this? He says, no. I asked 3 times, is there a time limit? Because this is going to take me a while. I was telling him I was going to be going through some education courses about the court procedures and so forth. And he said, I don't know how long it's going to take. I got a lot of stuff going on and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into those details. But I asked him, is there a time limit? 3 times. I asked, no, there's no time limit.
When you were arrested, did you go talk to the sheriff?
And I went to the prosecuting attorney's office, and I called. No, there's not. And then, but then why was I arrested?
Okay, look,
Well,
I can't give you much more information than I've given you, but okay, I have another question, and maybe I can give you another thought, and that is, when you went into jail, did you get a hold of the sheriff that you spoke to?
I couldn't make a phone call.
Well, were you in a county jail?
I was in a county jail in Minneapolis.
The sheriff runs the county jail. Well, you can request to talk to the sheriff, and you know the sheriff may not talk to you. May send you a representative, you know, but in a deputy.
He was busy because there was a county fair going on that weekend here. It's a big deal.
But you don't have to talk directly to the sheriff himself. The sheriff could have sent a representative, you know, one of his lieutenants or something, or any of the deputies to come and take a, you know, so I don't know what you want to call it, a deposition. But
there was a lieutenant there, and I showed him that, and he said, "Oh, you should be in good shape on this one. You shouldn't have nothing to worry."
Well, meanwhile, you sat in jail for 5 days.
Yeah.
You've been denied due process in many ways. There's no indictment. There's no summons or anything given to you. There's no charges that you can make any sense out of. There's vindictive prosecution, and again, place habeas corpus. If they deny that, that's just another charge on top of them. And you could do habeas corpus right now. You don't have to be literally incarcerated. You're incarcerated statutorily already because you have to show up to court. You have to do whatever they say. So you're incarcerated right now statutorily. So therefore, it's the same thing as being in prison. And that's more of an injury because now you have to give up your time. You have to give up your focus. You got to buy a lawyer, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, habeas corpus and a common law lawsuit, but you need to know how to do that. And, you know, you have time. You could do that a year from now, 6 months from now. You got to be careful because they play these games with, you know, statute.
Well, we got a continuance of 30 days.
Yeah, but
so I'm going to go in next Thursday.
Listen. They'll play the game of you know that there's a statute of limitation, which doesn't apply in common law, but you don't want to have to make that argument. But as long as you're going through the system, and that could take months, and it sounds like it's going to be months before you're totally free of this whole thing. So meanwhile, you need to be studying. Okay, you need to be understanding how to do a court of record, how to do your lawyer should do the habeas corpus, and how to do a lawsuit. And then if you want, you use a lawyer in the background, but I wouldn't bring the lawyer into the court. But if you can't articulate your case, then you have a problem because now you have a bar attorney who's playing ball with the judge and the prosecutor, whether you realize it or not. It's a good old boys club. Okay, with that, that's all I can give.
Well, just a little side note, the trial court date has already been established for in October.
Okay, well, that's just next month. It's not too far away. Yeah. All right, well, let me go on to other people in the meeting.
Can you kind of review real quickly what I should say to my attorney as far as what we just talked about? Kind of summarize the points that I should bring up.
You want him to do a habeas corpus.
Okay.
Period.
And then claim the vindictive.
You're not
defective warrant.
No. Habeas corpus is for them to respond to give the details why you should be held in any kind of captivity, whether statutory or actually in shackles, you know. And that's what a habeas corpus is about. You're not going to argue the case. You're not going to go into details. You want them to tell you on the case, in the law, why you are being held and back it up. And if they can't do that, the requirement of habeas corpus, your lawyer should know, you must be liberated immediately. A judge, when you go you can get before the judge within 3 days. 3 days is the law and the requirement. Now, they'll try to push that longer than that. Maximum is 20 days with good cause. Good cause. Just because they're busy, that's not good cause. It doesn't matter. Whatever is going on, it's got to be good cause. So they don't have good cause. But if you have to wait to 20 days, you wait to 20 days. It's just more BS that they push you through. But the bottom line is he writes the habeas corpus, and they got to respond by what authority they're holding you and for what purpose they're holding you for and why were you incarcerated. All these things should be in your habeas corpus, and it has to be answered. The moment that is heard, before that case is over, before that hour is over, you have to be released if they can't continue pushing the criminal charges against you. It sounds like this should have been at the most, it should have been a civil lawsuit. That's it. With that, I got to move to other people now.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, Tony from Pennsylvania, you got the mic. Go right ahead.
Hello. I think I'm there, right?
Yeah,
you can hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Tony.
Okay, so this weekend, John Birch Society had a big leadership down here in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. He had a lot of people there. He had General Flynn, Catherine Fitz, Matthew Llewellyn, what's his name? The educational guy. I can't think of his name. I wrote it to Jan, but I was just wondering what your thoughts are on the John Birch Society, and then are they really doing anything to make America great again, other than us action items? We got to write to this congressperson, or write to the leadership, and I saw this list of all the things that they passed while Charlie was, that one on September 10th. Congress had passed a list of things.
Well, look, in the beginning, John Birch Society, I believe we came up in the 50s. Okay, I know G. Edward Griffin was in the Birch, the John Birch Society. A lot of great people were in the John Birch Society, and I know other people, whose parents were in John Birch Society. But they have been taken over. They're not, they may try to do good things or look like they go do good things, but at the end of the day, the leadership has been foiled. They've been taken over. Now, I could be wrong, or maybe they captured it back. The last time I had any dealings with John Birch Society was probably 10 years ago, maybe. And my conversations and communications with these people, I was talking with the president. I think he was the leader, so I guess it's called the president. But I don't remember his name back then. But I saw very quickly they're not interested in justice. They're interested in a money-making machine, and they're really working for the enemy. That's my opinion, and I don't know if it's still the truth right now.
Well, they had Lloyd Brunson there. He wrote a book about his case.
Yeah, but you'll find that they never get anywhere with anything. Yeah, they will subvert the whole system that's working in. Yeah, we're going to talk with those people. Yeah, we'll have big speeches. Yeah, we'll rile up the people. But behind the scenes, they're really working to sabotage that. At least that's my opinion. Okay, I don't know. I can't say these are for facts. It's my strong opinion. At least 10 years ago, I don't know about today. Maybe there's new leadership. Maybe they took it back, which I doubt. Look at. The New World Order and all of the different controlling factors that they have, whether it's in the court or in different organizations and corporations and society things and all those things, okay, they seize control of things little by little, just like they did with our government. And that's why we're getting all these conflicting things going on, with the assassination of Charlie. Okay, because we have the gunman there. They left the gun. There's so many things with that gun.
Yeah.
Okay, the scope on the gun was misplaced in the wrong way, and it couldn't have been shot because it wouldn't work. It was on wrong to begin with. Okay, it wasn't. I remember what they said. It wasn't far enough along the barrel or back enough to the eye because you had to get it into the eyeball. So I don't recall what it is. But the other thing is, we saw him jump off the roof. He didn't have a gun with him.
Right.
If he broke it down and put it into his backpack, why did he put it back together? Okay, I mean there's so many problems. So the thing is, it's not that our new leadership is corrupt. It's just that the corruption is so deep. They're still working on it. and the enemy is there, and the information received is the information that they're getting from individuals who have taken control at a different level and feeding bad information. Look at Lavoy Finnegan. I mean, what went on with that case? And you know, and they went. The FBI went for, well, hey, this was a good case. The cops were innocent. It wasn't an assassination. They had no choice. Blah 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 blah. Whatever it is that they were saying, but the bottom line is they were sort of patting the cops on the back that did the shooting that killed Lavoy Finnegan. Okay, but they don't have the whole story. They're believing a court that is so corrupt, where there is no justice whatsoever. The whole fix was in from the very beginning. This was all about really what is it called? Plutonium. Okay, this is all about plutonium, and they were trying to take the land away from the ranchers and get rid of these people because they were selling the plutonium to Russia. Hillary Clinton was in the lead of that whole process. Hillary Clinton, okay, and there's the whole leadership, FBI, the Justice Department, everything, and so a lot of those people are still in the structure. And
so you think that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sending bad information up, okay, and that is the problem everywhere. They have seized control of every one of our agencies, government agencies, not only on the federal level, on the state level too.
So you're thinking that they can, like, because Alex Newman, that's the other guy, that Alex Newman is part of them also? I mean, because that it's just hard for us to believe.
Alex Newman, what's his position? Is he with the John Birch Society?
No, he was there as a speaker. Like even General Flynn being a speaker, Catherine.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I heard the name. I'm not sure who Alex Newman is. Who exactly is it? Is he with some organization?
Well, he does the education programs. Like he had homeschool. They educate people on what's going on with the cabal. Like he's been to Davos. Like every year, he goes there and interviews the people outside, and they of course don't want him in. I just find it hard that all these people would be so snowballed to be deceived. Really smart people that are deceived by the John Birch Society, if that's the case.
Well, just think about this. How many lawyers are there in the United States?
All lawyers.
Yeah, well, probably hundreds of thousands. I don't know, maybe a million. I have no clue on how many there is. Okay. Mm-hmm. With that in mind, okay, all of those lawyers are deceived. The few that aren't, that wake up, they leave the system. I've met a few, okay. They leave the system, or they try to do what they can in the system, but they know the truth, and you know they're trying to make a living, which I don't think that's a wise idea unless you can hold up to common law, especially if you know about the common law. But the thing is that deception is big. Look what they've been putting into our bodies, into our children's infants being born, all these shots they give them. Look at our food, our air, our water. It's all poisoned, okay? All poisoned. You know, we're going to hear the big report coming up. Kennedy's going to make that big report coming up on a lot of this stuff, and it's going to be mind-blowing, okay? So how do they do it? Well, it's very easy. If they can control your education, and they can control, you know, the media, okay, where you get your news from. So they control your education, they control your media, they can control your entertainment, okay, and of course your education, school. So if they can control those things, you know, then it's really a matter of just laying things out in a way that seems logical, that this is the only conclusion. Look, when I talk to people concerning some of these problems, and people have no clue, and have been not communicating or listening to people talking about these things, trying to figure these things out because they saw something crazy and they tried to figure what the hell's going on, and then you know the rabbit hole becomes bigger and bigger, and you start to get educated and realizing, and you start to come to an understanding of what's going on. Well, the people who haven't gone into those rabbit holes, they think you're a nut. Okay, I've been recently called a sovereign citizen on a program where I went to talk to some people, and there was a lawyer there, and as soon as I saw this guy sitting there with all his law books behind him, I knew he was a lawyer. I mean, and they believed everything this guy said. Okay, so I couldn't get heads or tails anywhere. They shut me down. They write what you want and send it to us. Well, this is a communication thing for conversations. I'm going to write it down. You're going to read it? Who's going to read it? What's the purpose of me writing it down? Just to get rid of me? I mean, I didn't make that argument, but to a degree I did. But the bottom line is, people are deceived all day long. How many people in government that actually know the Constitution? Let's just look on the federal level. How many
That's what I was asking the candidates, like,
even
as
if
well going on. Yeah.
Even if they're lawyers, how many of them know the Constitution? Because lawyers don't know the Constitution. They haven't studied the Constitution. I don't even know if they ever read the Constitution. Okay? You read the Constitution. When I first read the Constitution, to some degree it was a little confusing to me. It's really a simple document. It's a very small book. There's not much to it. And it's very straightforward. Once you understand that law is constructive, and then you start to work through that, and a few other principal things that you might want to know, and the Constitution is very easy to understand. Okay, there's not really much to it, again, and it really is the powers and the authorities that we've given to these people, and the things that they cannot do. Okay, and the Bill of Rights, of course, and the Bill of Rights is the ruler of law. So if you want to find out whether a law is repugnant or not, you just take out the Bill of Rights and measure it by the Bill of Rights. If it violates anything in the Bill of Rights, it's repugnant to the Constitution. It's null and void. If they have a power or authority that they're exercising that's not in the Constitution, Article 1, for instance, is going to the legislators, and it lays out what powers and authority the legislators have. And if they take power and authority to create laws and create things like the Organic Act of 1871, the Rules and Enabling Act, the Patriot Act, all these things, there's no power, there's no authority given to them to do those things, to write those things, to apply those things upon we the people, none whatsoever. How are they getting away with this? Because we the people are totally ignorant, have no clue about it. We don't even know when they're breaking the law, and they don't even know half the time when they're breaking the law. They actually think they have powers and authorities that they think that they have, but because they're taught that. But they don't. They're not thinkers to begin with.
So I asked every single one of the speakers about have they heard of National Liberty Alliance, and then about sovereignty, not about citizenship, because citizen being a tricky word. But each one of them had said, no, don't bother with sovereignty. And no, they never heard of National Liberty Alliance. And I asked them to check into it, like look into that. Even Pastor Matthew Llewellyn, I would say Llewellyn, he, as the writer of the Leicester Magistrate, he's like, no, I never heard of National Liberty Alliance. So I was just wondering.
Again, I'll get back to the same thing I said a little while ago. It's not what you know that's going to hurt you. It's what you think you know and ain't so. And there's so much of that going around. These people don't know, their head from a hole in the wall. They don't know what a republic is. They don't know that we are a republic. They even call us a democratic republic, which is contradictory. It's an oxymoron. It's oil and water. It cannot exist together. Okay? The law has been laid out. Either we're going to be under the law of God, or we're going to be under the law of man. And how has that worked out in history? Okay? It always works out negative. Democracy, there's one purpose of a democracy, and one purpose only, and that is the first step to an oligarchy. We already have an oligarchy. That's where we're at. We haven't had a president until Trump that really has been able to take the reins of power, okay? Because we've been under an oligarchy. All my life, we've been under oligarchy. From before my birth, we've been under an oligarchy.
So then I asked them, what can we do to move forward? And nobody had an answer for me. So, a committee of safety, so other people, patrons that were at the event, I would periodically just ask them, have you heard of a committee of safety? What county you're in, what state are you in? They were all, it was a national convention, so people came from all over the country, and a lot of people had no idea what a committee of safety was. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, it's a fight. I just feel like I'm fighting a battle here in Montgomery County, just trying to get, we have over 800,000 people, members of Montgomery County residents, and just trying to talk to a few people at a time and saying, hey, come to a meeting. it's so hard. Like everybody's, I don't know if I'm just putting the negativity out there.
No, you got it. You got it right. Believe me, I have my thumb on this thing, and let me tell you something on the pulse. I have my fingers on the pulse of this thing, and I'm telling you, people, it's sad, 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 sad. People don't want to read. They don't want to learn. They want to continue whatever it is they're doing. Look, we all are working hard and suffering in this economy. Unless you're making really big bucks or you're rich, you're suffering in this economy. Okay, and so we all have to struggle with that, but they find the time to spend hours on this stupid thing. I refuse to get a smartphone for the main reason I got plenty of computers, I'm on most of the day on the computer. I don't want to walk away from my desk and be on a computer for the rest of the day, okay? But they waste all that time that they're wasting playing around with stupidity, tweeting back and forth stupid things, okay? They could take that time and put it into trying to save this nation, but but they become addicted now. Okay, to some degree, it's not their fault. Okay, because this thing has come out. Look, I fell into the computer system and everything early on, and I would say I became addicted to it, but it became a very powerful tool in my business. I used to sit down and type literally on a typewriter estimates because I was a general contractor. And I type up estimates and put things together in contracts and stuff. I spend a lot of time doing that. Okay, once you get a computer, you can create all these things, and you put a contract together in no time, and lay things out, do estimates, and so on and so forth. So computers, the technology is great. Okay, but it comes to the point where it starts to cripple. Our children are being crippled. We're destroying their minds. We're creating sociopaths by giving our children these phones and sending them to school with the other real sociopaths or psychopaths who control all this stuff and turn them into sociopaths. And what do you think this kid that shot, Charlie Kirk, that kid there, he's been taken over by the system. He's been brainwashed. Okay, your children are being brainwashed. I would not give my children smartphones to go to school. I just wouldn't do it. If you're going to give them a smartphone, then you have to teach them how to use it, and you have to control it, and you have to keep an eye on it, and it's got to have a purpose. The conversation has to be worth something, okay? But there's nothing. When I was a kid, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening in, when they were kids before all this technology, and we were kids and stuff, we went out to play. I was outside all the time playing with my friends, footballs, stickball, handball, stoop ball, ring alevio, roundup, going places, heading to the beach. It was constant, just having a great time, okay? And they don't do that no more. They're in crazy land. They're in fiction. Their minds are being destroyed. And just think, AI. Everybody's asking AI questions. AI will be writing our books. So who's going to know anything? You get greater knowledge. An author gets great knowledge because they do research. Okay, my knowledge comes because I've done research. For years I've been doing research and writing and bringing these things together so you come to understanding of things. That knowledge wouldn't be in me if I had AI write a book for me. What purpose does that serve? I don't know what's in that book because AI wrote it. And my purpose would be only to make money at that point in time. And so you have a child, and you get them a robot now because that's coming up. And so they have their robot, and any questions they have, and you don't have to think no more. Thinking is too painful. I'll have my robot. Look, we're in trouble. I don't think that genie can go back into the box.
Okay.
Or bottle, shall I?
So, do you have, would you think about having a convention or a thing that we could all get together, like all the people that are members of NLA, and come together?
We don't have the funding to really do that. We did have a while back, early on when we were doing Committeeman and moving into these kind of things also. We used to have a big thing in, if you get up towards Albany, there was a park we went to. It wasn't in Albany, but it was up towards Albany from where I'm at. And we had a park, and it was just a big get together. We could do something if we had the money. We don't have the money, but then we have to get the word out to get the people to come. And look, I don't have the time to do that, and also it's not my cup of tea, so to speak, organizing in that fashion and understanding how to bring this all together. We'd have to have people who understand that. You know,
well, maybe you can put it together for, like, say, hey, I want to do something. How about a committee of events or something? And hey, I'd be a member of that.
Yeah, but people don't want to give money. Look at, we spoke 3 weeks ago about doing something here for Lavoie Finnegan, the assassination, and to straighten up what the FBI, the knowledge that the FBI has, and get Bondi to understand all. We have over 700 pages of evidence. We have, and on top of that, we got videos and audios. Okay, so much evidence concerning this case and the corruption of the government and what this was all about, what was going on with the Bundys and the Hammonds and of course Lavoie Finnegan and many others. Okay, we have all that evidence. We put it into the court system. We did an indictment. They ignored it. So the indictment sits, but it hasn't gone anywhere. We sent a copy of that indictment to, no, we haven't. We want it. Did we? Let me think. No, we didn't. That's what we wanted to do. We want to send a copy of that indictment, which would probably be collectively about 700 pages, maybe 8, but let's say 700 pages, and we'd have to send it to Bondi. We'd have to send it to the FBI director. We'd have to send it, of course, to the president. We'd have to do it in a presentment, and we'd have to write a paper on that, and we'd have the opportunity to talk a little more concerning what they think they know that ain't so, and try to shake them up a little bit. You know, look at Trump is a bright guy, and he knows a lot of things, but I don't think he knows the law. He has lawyers to know the law, and he relies on the lawyers. I don't know that he understands what natural law is. I don't know whether he understands that what a republic is, and it doesn't seem that anybody in his administration understands that. Okay, maybe they do, and I'm just not getting it. So, well, we need to communicate these things to them because we can't get our courts of law back without that. But with that, we need $1,000, $1,500, whatever it's going to take to put this whole thing together and get it out to them. I haven't got that money to do that, but the people spoke. They don't want to do it because they're not giving money for it. If anybody wants to give money for that, hey, send a check or go out there up to our donate button on the top right side of our website and put it in. If we can get $1,000, $1,200 or something like that together, I think we could do it. And we can get more communications going with Trump. And we have a wedge because we have an indictment, a powerful indictment. And yet, but the thing is, look at, I think I said this last week, you know, when I first got involved with this movement, I got involved back in 1999 with Robert Schultz, We the People. And I got involved with his, he was doing a lawsuit, okay, show me the law type thing. And it was all about the Federal Reserve and the IRS and all that. And he was collecting a lot of people. When I started to form some things was, I think, 2007, maybe 2008. I think it was 2007, the Ron Paul movement. And we had the Ron Paul meetup groups, okay? Boy, those places were crowded. It was standing room only in some places. People were excited. They were angry. They wanted to do something. They wanted their country back, okay? And then from there, it went to when Ron Paul didn't get the election, all those people kind of just disappeared. You know, I've seen some of them, but most of them disappeared. And then after that, you know, we got the Tea Party going, okay? And it did the same thing. People all over the place, standing room only in places. It was moving. People wanted to do something. But, you know, now Trump gets elected, and he's going to fix the problem, and you can't find nobody. Because why do I have to do anything? Trump's going to take care of my problems. You know, I don't need...
I have a few. The Lehigh Valley MAGA group, which is the Lehigh Valley Tea Party, they changed the name to MAGA. We have the Berks County Patriots, and they have like 200 to 300 people at all their meetings, which are like once a month. And I'm like,
if they want me to speak, I can come in on Zoom.
Okay, well, I don't know if they could always do a Zoom. They always have the people come there.
Oh yeah, I know, but look at it. It's a long trip. I lived in Lehigh Valley for a couple of years, many years back, and so I know where it's at. It's like a 4-hour trip for me, and so it'd be 4 hours round trip, and you know, I have a disabled wife and daughter, so disappear for too long, so it's difficult for me to do that. But I'll travel somewhere. But that's kind of a long trip, and I would like to do it over Zoom. And then if things that they're really excited at that point, then it'd be worth my while, I think, to actually make a visit out there if they wanted me to. But
well,
then,
I'll be seeing them I'll be seeing the Berks County Patriots on Thursday this week, and maybe I'll mention it to them about that.
yeah, it would have to be, if I actually came out, I wouldn't come out to speak for an hour. I'd come out to speak for the day. We do a whole day process, and teach them everything they need to know.
Okay. And then we could, like, if they have the firehouse and everything, that maybe we can, if people pay $50 to do it for the whole day or so, I don't know.
Yeah, well, whatever they want. I mean, look, if they can provide my cost to get out there and back, that'd be fine. But the thing is look, first of all, I'd want to do it on Zoom and to see what the results is, what the response is, what the excitement might be, what kind of an excitement level it might be, let's say. And then if they're really excited about that, then I put my time into it. I'm very busy, and I'm writing all the time. I work from the moment I get up, and at least right now, at least till dinner time, I don't work nights anymore. Very rarely do I work nights, but I do work, 6 days a week. The 7th day is the Lord's Day, but 6 days a week I'm working. The 7th day.
If you get the Epic Times, one of the editors was there too, and she interviewed each of the speakers and stuff. So I'll probably come out this Wednesday.
All right, well, if you want to try to set something up, look at, Zoom isn't that big a deal to set up. They put up a screen, and, and then a laptop with a projector on it. The projectors are super cheap. Everybody's got a laptop. You can put a white sheet up there if you don't have a screen. But the village of people is pretty big, so you'd want a decent-sized screen. I
think they both have that availability. I just want... They have to go through the board first, so it's kind of like they'd have to look at your sites.
Take a look, see what we're doing, come to some Monday night meetings and listen to what we're doing. You can ask me questions right here, and from that information, they can decide whether they'd be interested in having me talk to them or not, and to teach them.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Have a good night.
And that invitation goes to anybody that wants to do something with that. Okay, Tony, we'll take the next call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question, anonymous, first name and state. Anonymous, you got the mic, first name and state.
Yes, sir. My name is Elizabeth. I'm in Arizona.
Okay.
Good evening. I was sitting here thinking about this. It's like, there's that song by Stevie Wonder called Superstition, and there's a line in there that says, if you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer.
Yeah.
And, it's like I've spent a lot of my life believing what other people told me instead of learning myself, and it's just changed my life, in other ways. And what I'd like to do regarding the gentleman who was talking about the door opener, the garage door opener, I'd like to just lay out this scene, and because I'm a student, I'm one of your students, and I just want to see what feedback you might have. Okay? So this gentleman has been wronged. I'm still kind of on the side. I'm a little concerned about him going through papers inside the house without permission. But that aside, so he could go into...
By the way, it was a house that he lived in. He was leaving it, but I guess he went back.
Oh, it was his own house. Well, then...
No, I forget whether he was renting. So, but he went back for things and to return the clicker for the door because he realized...
Right. Yes.
And he was getting a few things that day, I guess. I don't know, but that's just an understanding.
Okay, because you mentioned that was civil, and I don't know what that meant, because... Anyway, but just say that aside, okay? So he goes in, and he's got, there's no warrant, there's no evidence of any crime, there's no victim. And so he goes in, and the judge says, well, what is your plea? And then he says, well, sir, I'm not going to be giving a plea because I'm not in your jurisdiction. And he's going to say, what do you mean? Everybody in this county is under my jurisdiction. And then,
so he thinks.
Wait, let me finish. I know. Just hang on, because I probably can learn something there. But you know, they've done nothing. He's done nothing wrong, so he has no business being there. And so then the judge will say something to the effect of, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so he goes, there's no evidence of a crime, and and then he might say something, some statute or something, and they'll say, well, your statute is violating my Fourth Amendment right of no search and seizure, and I have done nothing wrong, and I'm telling, and I'm however you say, I'm tired of treating these people like they're little dainty cloths, but I can't be rude, but just to say I'd like a dismissal, and he'd say, well, we're not going to be dismissing this yet, and then it's like, okay, so sir, have you made an oath to the Constitution? And he'd probably say, well, yes. And it's like, well, then I need my constitutional right upheld here, and I need a dismissal. And just like let it sit there. Now, they're going to be not liking that, but I mean, I'm trying to see how to turn the courtroom into a common law courtroom when you're standing in hell. And then if they'd have to dismiss him because you violated your Fourth Amendment right. I was in jail. My freedom was taken from me for 4 days or something, and that's a violation of my privacy, my life. I mean, this is where these things that happen. I have to try to learn how to go into these constitutional rights and see how they're violated, because they violate our rights after they've been violated again. And then they'll just dismiss it, then he can go after them to sue them for that time in jail. Okay, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Right. Well, look, the way you do it ultimately is if I get a call to appear in court for a traffic ticket or some violation of whatever the case may be, well, the key thing is giving a notice of appearance. Just like a lawyer would do, that's what I do. I give a notice of appearance, okay? And with that notice of appearance, matter of fact, I have the information right up on the screen right now, instructions and forms for traffic court. And you can use this for any kind of a statutory process against you, okay? And there's a lot of statutory processes that they call a criminal, so you could use this in that case. But then, and if civil, then you could press the Seventh Amendment and do a counter lawsuit, the right of common law. And common law is natural law. You have to make that distinction, because when you argue with people, especially a lawyer, they're going to say, look, it's common law is the court decisions in the past. Well, that's what you think. You want to bring up the foundation of our law, which is natural law, also known as common law, but it's natural law. You have positive law. Positive law is statutory law, that which is created by legislation, right? Yeah. But anyway, I got some paperwork up here, and it's in Word and PDF. This is found under Education Starts Here. You come down to Law, and then you come over to Court Forms and Process. And then you come down a little bit here, and you'll see instructions and forms for traffic court, all right? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to put a file on demand on there. That's on top of your paperwork. But first you want to do an appearance ticket. You want to do a notice of motion, and you want to do a verified jurisdictional challenge. And then on top of that you have your file on demand. And they're going to, if you're in a town court, village court, or one of those other courts, those little courts, they're going to throw this away. They're going to ignore it. They're not going to do anything. But you have to certify that you've sent it, and you have to have copies with you when you go into the court, because you're going to ask the judge about, well, I responded and so on and so forth, and he's going to say I have no paperwork, because they don't want no paperwork. They don't respond to paperwork unless it's a lawyer. And so I have copies, give them copies. There you got my copies. Challenge of jurisdiction. And that's the key. That's how you can defeat these people to some degree, because they're totally ignorant. And what they're going to do is they get real angry, okay? And now at this point, they're going to do everything to put you, they'll make a plea for you and everything, because I'm not pleading, because I'm challenging jurisdiction. There is no plea. You've got to prove jurisdiction before we go anywhere. Jurisdiction, once challenged, must be decided. It must be proven. And if the other side, when I do a jurisdictional challenge, that has to be rebutted. Okay, if you can read the one I put up here, you'll see how powerful it is. It has to be rebutted. They can't rebut it. So the prosecutor, it's his job to rebut that. And if he doesn't rebut it, well, guess what, Charlie? I'm out of here. You got to let me go. Now, it is true. It's not that simple, and they're still not going to let you go because they're vindictive. They're angry. Who are you to come into my court? And they think it's their court. They really do. Okay? They think that we're here to serve them. All right? So they get more and more vindictive. So then the next step is to move it into state court for denial of due process, and if necessary, move it into federal court. Maybe federal court is the best way to go. Got to think that out. But because state court all too often is too close to these lower courts because they're all in the state process. Here in New York, they unified the courts, and once they unified the courts, that would allow them to really bring all these bring cohesiveness to all of these court systems to work things out. But it also caused another problem for them, okay? Because now, by unifying the court, they have a process now to move into a court of law, and a city court, a town court, a village court. None of those courts are courts of law. They're all statutory processes dealing with usually commercial activities. And there's some, arguments between people in town or whatever. And there could be, of course, contract. They could be doing that in the county and, the town. Now, county courts are courts of record. State courts are courts of record. The problem is these morons, and I haven't met a lawyer that wasn't a moron on this. Well, that's not true. I met a couple, because they understand the common law. But these lawyers, okay, they're such morons. They think a court of record is a court that keeps a record. Duh, doesn't every court keep a record? Come on, buddy. Go into your Black's Law Dictionary. Go into Bovier's Dictionary. Find out what the meaning of a court of record is, that which proceeds according to the common law. And that's the common law that we had when we were in the colonies. Comes from England, okay, which brings us to natural law under the Declaration of Independence, and it's defined and it's stated in the Constitution. I think it's Article 4, if I recall, or 5, but it's in the Constitution that we're under law and equity. Okay, no, actually it's under 3 because it's the 2. It's the judiciary. But in any event, that's the route I would go.
Well, and the thing is, though, that I don't even want to. I mean, all of these documents are these common law documents? I mean, are they, or are we still playing, patty cake with the system? I guess we have to do that, right, until it's gone.
No, everything I do is common law. It's natural law. Period. So
then couldn't I tell the judge, I will not accept a plea from you, sir, and then tell him, look, if and I'm kind of mumbling, but with straight talk, tell him that you violated one of my rights, one of my of search and seizure, and there's probably other ones you could find in the 9th Amendment. I mean, you talk about all these maxims. But then to tell him, sir, if you're not going to uphold this courtroom under the Constitution, then you need to stand down.
Well, again, you shouldn't have to get to that point when you do what I'm saying. You come in with an appearance ticket, a notice of motion, with a verified jurisdictional challenge. It's
but he should stand down, though. He should.
Well, he should, but he's not going to because you're irritating him. You're challenging his authority.
Well, he has no authority, though, right? I mean, he has no authority.
He has absolutely no authority over you whatsoever. 0 authority over you. None.
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 And he's not going to like me treating him like an equal, right?
Just think. Well, of course not. I wouldn't want to treat him as an equal. I want to be superior to him because I'm the lawmaker.
We might have to kind of swallow our pride a little bit, right? I mean,
no.
I don't want to put him down, but he needs to stand down because he's violating our Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, right? I mean, this is what we're going to face. We're going to face these clowns,
You put it to them in the language of the United States Supreme Court. You put it into the language of of the Constitution. You put it into the language of Blackstone and on what he has to say about common law, which is natural law, because that's what he uses. Those are the terms he usually uses, but it is referred to as common law too. Okay? But the thing is this. The fact of the matter is we, the people, ordained and established this Constitution for you. You have to be obedient to that. We are above that law. We are the sovereign law makers. People, they choke on that. They don't understand that. It's beyond the normal understanding of reality. They really think they got to go to some guy with a black robe sitting on a desk that's going to have a little hammer and rule on you. I mean, they just want, it's insane. It's total insanity. I fell for all this stuff myself, too. Don't get me wrong. I was as stupid as the next guy. I was a moron just like the next guy because I didn't know until I ran into problems with the IRS back in the 90s. That's when I got my education, okay? And I fought them for over 25 years. 25 years I've been fighting those people. But in any event, the thing is this. If you come in, you take control of the court. When they violate you for the denial of due process, you move it out of that court. You now have the right to move this into, again, I'd go into the state court first for two reasons. Number one, it's cheaper. Okay. Number two, it gives you more bites on the apple. Okay, so if you move it to the state court first, and you can also pick up more defendants along the way when that judge and if there's a prosecutor, well, there won't be no prosecutor, but if that judge then violates your unalienable rights, your right of due process in that court, now you can move it into the federal court. So you have that extra jump, so to speak. Okay, now here's the problem, and I had this problem in New York. They consolidated, and they don't want to hear this argument. They don't want to hear this argument. Look at when I moved my case into the state court, okay, here in New York, okay, I moved it from a town court into the state court. They required me to pay to get into that court $310. $310. They wanted $310 to go into that court. I said, wait a second here. I'm not opening a court case. You guys came after me. You guys pulled me into that court. That court is connected to this court because you guys unified this some years back, okay? So it's a unified system. At most, I pay $45 for the movement of the case over to the next jurisdiction. Okay, and then the next court, which is a different jurisdiction, is a jurisdiction that does have jurisdiction over the law. You're not going to get that there, but that's where it's at. You know, you might get lucky, okay, number one. Or we may fall into a time period where we do win our courts back, because that's either going to come soon or it's not, okay? And so, you know, I believe...
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but may I just say that it'll come when we go through this stuff. That's what's going to bring it, because it's not just going to appear on the stage, you know. I mean, some of us are going to get we're going to get some grief. And, you know, the guy goes into jail. They probably strip searched him. They handled him. They shouldn't be touching him. You know, this is all, it's vile, and it's not okay, right. You know. And so I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying I agree with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, though, that until these monkey courts are gone, you know, I mean, yeah, it's kind of natural, I guess. I don't know. I don't need the choir behind me, but I'd like things to go more pleasantly and easily. But you know, and if we weren't in this time right now where the courts are actually being dismantled, I mean, I've been waiting for this to happen, and it's finally starting. But it's not going to happen until some of us go into these courts and bring our Constitution, and, you know, we're trained to be able to catch whatever spitballs they throw at us and know how to just gently toss them back, because we can't give them an excuse to get mad at us. Because when somebody gets mad, there's something in them. If I haven't done anything wrong, they've got wreckage or something in them, and it shakes it up. They want us to handle them real delicately. So all those crimes and all those things that they've done with those black robes won't come up to the surface, and they have to face them. You know, that's what happens. I mean, that's my take on it anyway. And maybe I'm a little premature.
Well, we have discussion with people that have an opposite opinion, and especially people who have strong-minded opinions. and especially people who are dogmatic and pushy and they don't want to hear nothing else because they're not listening. They're too busy. Things rattling around in their own head that they don't have the common sense to say, hey, wait a second, let me sit and listen to what's going on here with this person. Thinks they got something right here. Even though it may sound dumb, maybe there's something here that you can benefit from anyway. But you don't get that. I listen to these conversations on a lot of these different programs, and there's a lot of, especially the news, they interrupt. The newscasters interrupt. If someone is there to be interviewed and they want to get information what's going on in the government, and all of a sudden they know more than the guy or the person that's in office that's trying to give you the information what's going on. This happens all day long on the news. They interrupt and they assault and they shut them down. Okay, but they don't listen. All right. So unless you can have a real conversation with someone, imagine how it is to try to have a conversation with somebody, to try to convince them of a couple of things. Number one, that parties are destructive. Our founding fathers did not create parties. They had a lot to say about parties. They say keep away from it because Washington was absolutely crystal clear. It's going to destroy this nation. Okay? And there were parties already developing. And all of our founding fathers were in one accord with that. Nevertheless, these people today don't know that. They don't know history. They don't know that argument, that debate. They haven't listened to the Federalist Papers. They haven't read George Washington's farewell address. They haven't read the Constitution, at least not to the point where they understand it, to meditate on it, to go through it slowly, figure things out, and to understand what those papers really are all about. Okay, they haven't done that. They're not interested in that. So how are you going to convince them that the only way we're going to save this nation is to get rid of parties? And that's just one argument. Just think on how hard that is, because these people think they know something that ain't so, okay? The other thing, and the biggest thing in my opinion, is to take the courts back. They have no clue what natural law is. They don't understand what a Christian nation really is, and that you can't be a Christian nation unless your justice system is ruled by God, because that's what the Declaration of Independence lays out. It lays out the foundation of our law. We are one nation under God, ultimately. We put forward the fact that we wanted and we decided to be under the laws of nature and of nature's God, and thereby receive his blessings, and thereby we receive the Bill of Rights, which is just the beginning of all. We got thousands of rights. And the silliness of people wanting gay rights or this right or that right, it's so stupid. What's that? Who are they? Don't they realize this thing is a special right? You got all the rights I got. You go do whatever you want. Have fun. If that's what you want to do what you want to do. Who cares? That's your business. Don't try to teach my children that. Don't try to bring it into school, all these other things. But the thing is, you live your life, I'll live mine. And let's talk. Maybe we can change each other's minds. We can get along, So it's a mess. So how do you have that conversation when they close their minds to it? The moment you bring something up, it's already shut down. They're shut down. They're just waiting. Move on to the next thing and get rid of you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about questioning his oath. And I could even question the prosecutor and say, sir, have you taken the oath to the Constitution of the United States of America? And they may say, yes. That brings God into the courtroom. And then things can happen that need to happen that are not humanly possible, because this is, our whole Constitution could not have been created by men. It was God that gave it to us. So, bringing God into the courtroom, which might sound religious, but it's not. It's very natural.
Whenever I'm brought into a courtroom by the government, okay, and I've done this whenever I'm brought into a courtroom by the government, the IRS brings you in, a ticket brings you in, whatever the case may be, okay, the government's bringing you into that court case, okay. One of the first things I do on my paperwork, and I don't do it necessarily on this one, but I would do eventually on it, and on as far as the traffic, because I got a procedure that I use, and I don't want to really, destroy the points that I'm trying to make in here. But one of the things that I do in that process, and I've done many times, is in my paperwork demand oaths and bonds of all officers of the court to be put onto the record. Do you know how many times they've done that? Do you know how many times they've done that? And I've probably done this maybe 40, 50 times, maybe more, I don't know. Okay? Yeah. Zero. They refuse to do it. They will not do it. How do you make them do it? You can't make them do it.
Well, maybe you have to just say, okay, then I'm going to leave, and otherwise they want us to play back into their hands.
Well, they got the guns. They got the guns. They can put you in shackles and put you in jail at that point, and they will at some point get so angry with you that that's what they'll do. So I try not to upset the judge. Okay, but I do put things in there, and I put it in as lawful way that I can. I try to look at it as a lawyer to some degree. Okay, I'll use statutes, I'll use codes, I'll use all that on them, not me. It has nothing to do with me. Okay, but I'll use it for them because that's what it's there for, to protect me, and it's for there to control them who are government agents. Okay, working for some agency, whether it's a court or something else. So they're governed by those things, and I'll use those to control them. But they ignore that too, okay? Because let me tell you, just think what would happen in this nation. You know, we don't have government by the majority. We have government by the majority that participates. And it required, in my thinking and calculations, the majority that participates is about 300,000 people, roughly speaking, okay, across the nation. If we can get approximately 300 people across the nation that could understand the Constitution, understand government by consent, and have been a reasonable good education in natural law and understanding what, and it's very simple, you know, it's not complex, but the due process part of that, you get enough people to understand that, guess what? We just took back this nation. We own this nation. We can bring these people down, okay? And the only way that could be done is by groups throughout the United States, like let's say in the county, and let's say the group might be called, you know, committees of safety, and they deal with subcommittees that deal with the political process, the judicial process, the educational system, the militia, and anything else you can think of, okay? But, you know, that's the only way we could take this nation back. Government by consent requires participation, and that's in the foundation of our law. We're governed by consent, right there in the Declaration of Independence. So, but the people don't seem to want to do that. They just want. They think they deserve it somehow. I don't know. So people think they deserve it.
It's just like a little kid, you know, insisting on having his way. I mean, you know, maybe we have to evoke Christ into the courtroom, and that sounds really radical to some people, but it's not.
But that's common law right there.
Yeah.
Look at the king of the court is Jesus Christ. He's the creator of the universe. He's the Word that became flesh and dwelt among us.
Yeah, and the key of David, it opens doors that will not close and closes doors that will not open. And I mean, I'm not talking about using God. I'm talking about participating. It's you know, this is uncharted for me.
If a court is run the proper way, okay, God is in that courtroom, and God is going to rule that courtroom if all things are in proper process, okay? Because the king's bench is the jury. The first king's bench is of course, you know, the grand jury, okay, to get the indictment if it's criminal. But whatever it is, civil court or criminal court, inside the court, there's the king's bench. And the king's bench is to do the will of the king. And the king of that court is God. We can find that in the Declaration of Independence, that we're under the laws of nature and of nature's God. And again, we find it in the Constitution, the word law, equity and law. Law is natural law. Equity is positive law, which is man-made law, which is supposed to be also a just process controlled by the rules of common law, because even equity is controlled by the rules of common law. But the point is this: when a jury understands that what they're doing, that they have to come in there with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy, that they get to discuss not only the facts of the case, they also get to discuss the law of that case, which the law is the law of the heart. And the heart is God. Everybody knows when someone's been injured. You've been injured before. We can have empathy for someone and compassion for someone. We listen to the story. Boy, they injured that guy. I wouldn't want that done to me. We know they've been injured, okay? That's all it takes for the people to see and know. If the people can't see the injury, then they ain't been injured, okay? And there's a lot of people in court, and there is no injured party there. So what's the court even being open for? But the bottom line is that we have a court of law which is governed by God. God said he wrote his laws into our hearts. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, and so on. So we know what the law is. And we govern the whole case by maxims, okay? And maxims is a truth that cannot be denied. Water does not run uphill. Unless you put a pump on it, it doesn't run uphill. Okay, that's a maxim. It's a very simple maxim, but there's, it's self-evident truths. The Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. You don't have to prove that. It's self-evident. You can ignore that. You can claim that's wrong. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans. Maybe a psychopath will think that that doesn't hold water, but that's a psychopath. Okay, we know what that is. Okay, so maxims ultimately really is common sense. The application of the law is common sense applied upon the facts. That's all it is. It doesn't get any more complex. We don't have to know about some kind of a written law by man, whatever it may be, traffic court or some equity, some other kind of equity court. We don't need to know any of those things. But what we do need to know, we need to know the Constitution. We need to know the Bill of Rights. We need to know the Declaration of Independence, and we need ultimately to apply those things. Those are the main things. And the other thing we need to know, and this takes a little bit of studying, but once you go through it, it's so logical. You say, "Wow, this really is simple," because it is logical. It's called due process. Okay, and that's what we teach for those interested. It's under Education Starts Here, court access in the common law. Click on that, and you can take the court access course, which teaches you due process. Okay, it lays out equity, the difference between equity and law. It gives you a lot of information, a lot of forms, paper layout, how to write papers, put them together, and so on. So it's really not difficult, but you do have to apply your time. I could take any young child, okay, as they go through school, we can create the necessary textbooks for them, something very simple in the lower grades to prepare them for something more difficult on the higher grades, which is not difficult at all. Okay, by the time any child comes out at the 12th grade, they should be able to walk into any court of law, take care of their own problems, and not have to give $1 million to some lawyer to keep you out of prison. Oh, it's ridiculous, ridiculous.
Well,
But this is what the people want, so they get what they want,
I mean, I'll be quiet in a second. I really see that they want to hold us so they can go after because we're still in the dark side on the courts, but they want our QSIP number and because they go in and they cash in.
Absolutely.
So, and then my little $200, which I should not be paying, they laugh at me. So anyway.
Well, the United States Supreme Court has ruled that any kind of a course to go into court is for fictions only, which means corporations.
Right.
And it's right for them to have to put up the $300, $400, whatever it is, to go into the courts. It's right for them to put out that $45. And do you know where that money's going? That's going to the clerk. So they're in the game too.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take our next caller.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good call. Thank you. Okay, we'll take our next caller. Looks like from Nevada. First name, 702 number. You got the mic.
Hello, do you got me?
I got you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go right ahead.
Oh, good deal. Thank you. Is it
What's
possible?
Your first name?
This is Danny. I'm a Washingtonian.
Danny. Okay.
But Nevada. I got a Nevada number. Is it possible that some of us who care, the people who call in, the people who join different groups, we have to be basically a bullet magnet for a while to learn the process to take over after whatever is happening happens? Evolution or what have you. There has to be people to plug in for the next round, because what the nice lady who just spoke and what myself, especially in Arizona is a mafia. Their courts is what the law enforcement and the courts are doing in Arizona is RICO, absolutely. And we, little individuals, can't fight that. The only thing we can do is educate ourselves, and God willing, when the Marines yank these individuals out of their bed in the middle of the night will be some group that can plug in to the next round of whatever happens. Otherwise, I wouldn't learn. I mean, does that make sense to anybody on the call?
Absolutely. That is the big problem, okay? Look, they're not going to get these judges unless we get them. We got to get those judges. That's number one. And the thing is we have to get the federal courts back. That means we have to convince Trump on what natural law is. We have to convince Trump that the Bar Association are the minions of the New World Order. That's a very difficult thing to do, and we got to do that very slowly, little by little. You know, because I've got about 30 memorandums I've written for the sole purpose of trying to wake people up, particularly people in the court. Use them in the courts, but I use them with, send copies to Trump and other people. Okay, from the standpoint of the grand jury, the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury, which we formed. Okay, so now we have to convince them and to get our federal courts back. I think Trump is very close. I don't know that he understands what we're talking about here. He might, but he's not expounding on that, so he's not being exposed to that knowledge, and maybe that's a strategy. I can understand that. But meanwhile, I got to assume that he doesn't understand. So I got to assume that we have to educate him. And education costs money, to send these papers and to do things, costs money. We can do, and I will, if we don't get the money to do the big things, I'll do it on my own. We'll do maybe just a presentment to the president and a presentment to, copy that presentment to all the people within his administration. And in that presentment, make the point that, hey, by the way, we sent everyone in your administration, a total of about 46 or 47 people, some senators and some congressmen, every single person in your cabinet and other people around you. And you, Mr. President, we sent you a copy of the book, Government by Consent. How's that going? We'd like to know whether they're going to obey the law or not, or they're going to continue to think and believe that which is not. Okay, they live in a de facto world. Okay, and it's hard to wake people up that's been asleep so long under a fiction that they believe is a reality. Okay, and that's what we're trying to do. But we got to win back the federal courts. If we can win back the federal courts, Trump can do that. Okay, because he's got the power of the president, and these people, and also there's the 13th Amendment. The original 13th Amendment is 1819. That was that lawyers, bar attorneys cannot be, because they have a title of honor, which is Esquire. Every lawyer, every bar attorney is an Esquire. A lot of them do put that name out there, Esquire. Not all of them. Nevertheless, they're Esquires. They hold a position of honor. Okay, but they're dishonorable. They don't know it because they've been sold a bill of goods that's not true. Also, it's. Their education is really just to control their minds, to create the minions of the New World Order. But look at 13th Amendment says bar attorneys can't be they got to go. They got to leave. The bar should have nothing to do with anything within our court systems. That's a hard thing for them to realize and do, but that's the truth. Our founding fathers were big on this. Okay, they didn't put enough into the Constitution to prevent that. They did talk about titles of nobility, but they failed to put in titles of honor, and that's why they did the 13th Amendment in 1819 or 1818 is when it actually passed. Okay, so anyway, we get the federal courts back. Now we can get the state courts back, because all we have to do is move our case immediately into the federal courts and demand the federal courts to uphold the Constitution and force these courts to be obedient to A, B, C, D, and E, whatever it is that we need to make them obey, and to rule and to step aside and bring in a court of justice, to open those doors of justice again, to operate under natural law courts, okay? So we could do that. The other problem to that is the people have to do the second part. And that's what we're trying to teach the people to do, is that second part. By creating committees of safety, and some of the people in the committees of safety will be interested in the justice system, and they can come here and learn how this thing works, and we can work together, and I can train them and teach them. I'm sure they can teach me some things too, but we can go through the process, how we can take our courts back in our state, and you could take the courts back in your state, and they can take the courts back in their states, and so on. That you're absolutely right. That only the people can do. Only the people can save the republic. Only the people can have government by consent. If the people don't have government by consent, then you're absolutely right. It'll only be a matter of time. Our children's children will be back right here where we're at right now, and they may not make it through that. Fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately for me and many others, but unfortunately for many other people, I do believe the Lord will be back way before that. But nevertheless, occupy until he comes, so we continue to push forward.
Just as a little statement of support or encouragement, maybe, and I'm completely discouraged right now.
Me too.
Completely. I took your course, sir. I've gotten your books, and honestly, it was divine intervention that got me into your. I don't know how I found you or how I found that course, but I have. I've got 3 different Black's laws. This isn't about me. I'm just saying I've taken the paperwork off of your website and filed it. I did quo warrantos for 2 county judges, blown off. I then filed a district court complaint, paid the $400, dismissed. But I know the process now, or I'm a little bit, I don't know the process. I'm a little bit clearer on the process. I had a call from a gentleman in Indiana, a guy named Mark, last week, and he kind of lit another fire, a little bit of a fire under me to get more involved or to find out what I can do. I'm the county, he got my number off the county, the Committee of Safety.
POS registry?
Yes, exactly. And so it was a very nice conversation. It showed me a little bit of hope. But the only thing that my crazy brain can make sense of is we have to give evidence to the good guys. So your case gets, my case gets dismissed. Why? Then you look on Pacer and you see the complaints about the guy running this county, and it's 30 different complaints that I'm sure didn't get favorable outcomes. These people are criminals. They are evil. And we must fight that evil. It's not about courts. It's good and bad right now. I'm pretty well versed in the whole movement that started in 2017. I heard every drop that came out. I had a pretty good idea where those drops came from. And so finally, maybe there's some good in the future, but we have to take a bullet. I don't want to go back into the county court and say, you guys are wrong because you're going to get a contempt and they're going to start a CUSIP number and just another bond for them. They've done that twice on the same charges. These people are evil criminals. And we, as individuals, just as you say every week, and thank you, John, this is just about encouragement for people who are going through the same, basically you have a warrant off your arrest. If your vehicle gets seen, you're going to go right into jail, and we're on house arrest. Well, the only thing we can do on house arrest as these criminals are playing out the end of their days is educate ourselves. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah,
Thanks
we're
for
all
everybody
in
who's listening.
We're all in a statutory prison, and most people don't have a clue on this. And only the people can save America. People need to step up. They need to educate themselves. They need to spend some time with people in their county, a couple hours a month. Have a meeting once a month, and maybe a couple hours of work. Each individual might have to do something during the month to bring that information back to the full committee. And this is the requirement, and this is the cost of liberty. And if people aren't interested in paying the price, paying the toll to have liberty, then you don't deserve liberty. And the unfortunate thing is that some of us that are pushing very hard and trying to do it, we lose our liberty too because the people don't step up. But your children are going to suffer, and your children's children's going to suffer. Your spouse is going to suffer. You eventually will suffer in this system if we don't fix it, because everybody at some point in time is going to get stuck somewhere. And you can keep going to the traffic court and keep filling their pockets up with money and just providing all the money for the cops, the cops to be able to, because someone's got to pay for all this. Someone's got to pay for the police department. Someone's got to pay for the courthouse and everything in the courthouse, and the judge and the clerk in the courthouse, and the computers, and pay the electricity, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're paying for our own imprisonment. Just like the IRS, we've been paying the IRS for, well, we've been paying the IRS for a long time. For what purpose? To destroy America. Because if anybody thinks that the money we give to the IRS goes anywhere to do anything for we the people, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell. Just line right up, and I'll sell you my bridge in Brooklyn. Because all that money is just funding the whole system. Okay, all they do is print out more money to do whatever they want. And they have all these different organizations that they give money with, and each one of those organizations, they're out there destroying who we are. Just like, the pharmaceutical companies, same thing. We're paying them to kill us. Are we insane? What's wrong with us?
Amen, brother.
We
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All the best. Out of here.
Okay, we've come to the end of our program. All right, thanks for the call. All right, we'll be back next Monday. Our Bible studies on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. right here in this room. Anybody interested? But Lord willing, we'll see you next Monday. Good night, everybody.